controversy in the fight to contain bovine TB and whether or not a cull of badgers is an effective countermeasure. But as the government prepares to publish a report later this month on the way ahead, wildlife campaigners opposed to a cull say they have proved that TB in cattle can be reduced by vaccinating badgers, something that farmers say doesn't work. Well, we can get more on this now with Dominic Dyer, who's the CEO of the Badger Trust, joining us this afternoon. Thanks very much for your time. Vaccinations then, where do you stand on this?
Well, you know, this week we saw some terrible footage from Cumbria, from the Cull zone, for a badger being shot in a cage, which I think has shocked the nation. Now, the cost of killing that badger with all the policing and equipment and training and monitoring, we estimate was over £1,000. And what we're saying to the government is actually we could have released that badger and vaccinated it for less than £200. Vaccination does work. It's proven to work by government science to significantly reduce the spread of the disease in animals that don't have TB and newborn cubs. It's more cheaper to the taxpayer and obviously does not involve the cruelty of culling. So we're really of the view that this is a big national policy that should now be pushed forward with public money and volunteers across the country to vaccinate badgers to help farmers.
Farmers say there's no evidence to suggest vaccinations work.
Well, there is. There's a University of Newcastle research study that the government commissioned a number of years ago that clearly states that badger vaccination works. The Zoological Society of London produced a report this week, again, to say that badger vaccination is a viable alternative to badger culling. There were some concerns about BCG vaccine and its supplies. They've now been resolved, so there's plenty of vaccine. We have thousands of volunteers. You know, I spoke in Hyde Park to Chris Packham's Walk for Wildlife a week ago to 10,000 people and said clearly there it's a huge support that we need a national badger vaccination programme. I've written a part of his manifesto that's gone to every MP this week calling for a national badger vaccination programme. We can do this. We should do this. We bring farmers and wildlife groups together in a spirit of mutual cooperation and respect that we need so badly after all these years of division over the bovine TB debate.
33,000 cows had to be slaughtered last year because of bovine TB. That's numbers up significantly. Do you feel for the farmers?
I feel for the farmers. I worked in agriculture and farming before coming into wildlife conservation. You know, bovine TB is a big economic, social problem for our farming industry, but it needs to be tackled within the herds. You know, we saw the footage of that badger being killed in Cumbria last week. That particular problem of the disease getting into badgers came from cattle brought in from Northern Ireland. The government accepts that. The National Farmers Union accepts that. The vast majority of the spread of the disease is cattle to cattle. We need to improve TB testing, biosecurity controls and movement controls. If we do those things and vaccinate badgers, in the long term vaccinate cattle as well, we will get on top of this disease. That's better for wildlife, better for farmers and better for taxpayers.
Now, Michael Gove's considering a recent report, isn't he, into the cull and perhaps may expand it. Do you think that'll happen? What do you predict he may do?
I think he's got a real problem on his hands. You know, we had a meeting with Sir Charles Godfrey, who's actually behind that particular review that's to come to the public's attention in a few weeks' time. We made it clear to him one of the key issues he has to address is a cost compliance assessment, looking at the cost of culling to the cost of badger vaccination. He accepted that. He had the Chief Executive of the Wildlife Trust of Derbyshire in that meeting as well, who put forward excellent plans and doing great work vaccinating badgers that you filmed this week. So what we said to him is, listen, we do want to get on top of this disease, but to spend as much as £50 million, we believe the government has spent so far, probably £70 million, killing another 42,000 badgers this year in the biggest destruction of a protected species in living memory. This is a national disgrace. It does great harm to the government's reputation, the Secretary of State Michael Gove's reputation for caring about green and environment issues. That's why he avoided talking at Chris Packham's March for Wildlife 2 weeks ago, which I think was a great shame. But he knows there's a huge amount of public anger about this badger cull policy. It has to come to an end. It's a huge shame that we're killing wildlife in this way. We cannot destroy wildlife around every farm in Britain to continue farming. We've got to find a better way forward.
All right, we'll have to leave it there then. Dominic Dyer, the CEO of the Badger Trust, joining us from Milton Keynes. Thanks for your time on Sky News.